Recently, I saw ProZD made a video of his top 10 most played games on Steam, and I thought that would make a really good Raz video. So hopefully it makes a really good Raz video. My 10th most played game is Dark Souls 3 at 55.8 hours. This was really just my single playthrough of Dark Souls 3. I've only played through the game once. For the most part, all of this playtime came when the game first came out, which was at 2016, I believe, which is almost 9 years ago. Oh my God. Oh no, the feeling when 2016 was almost 9 years ago. If I'm being quite honest, I don't remember Dark Souls 3 all that well. I remember some of the bigger moments and some of the bosses, especially ones that kind of connected back to the first game, but there's so much of that game that has just been completely wiped from my memory. I need to go back and play it. I also never actually played the DLCs because this playtime is pretty much from the first 2 weeks of the game coming out. I really love Dark Souls 3, and now that so many other FromSoft games have come out and I've played so many others, I'm curious to see where it stands for me now and how it holds up. It is my 10th most played game on Steam, so you'd think I'd have a stronger thought about it than I barely remember it, but you know, that's how it goes. At number 9 is Hollow Knight with a total of 59.4 hours. This comes from 2 different playthroughs of the game. My first playthrough took about 20 to 30 hours. I beat it, but didn't do most of the side stuff. And on my second, I did a lot more. I got the true ending, did the Grim Troop DLC stuff, and a fair bit of the side quests in general. And that probably took 30 or 40 hours. I was also on stream when I did that, so it was a lot slower. Hollow Knight is obviously one of the best games ever made. It is one of my favorites. I love the atmosphere. I think it takes the Metroidvania genre and just gets so much right with it. It feels great to play. The bosses are all really fun. The moves are all fun. There's so much mystery to not just the layout of the world, but the story of the world. I definitely want to play through it again, so I could see this getting up to 80 hours pretty easily. I haven't really done all the Pantheon challenges, so I'm sure my time would be way higher if I did. But yeah, it's wild. I still feel like there is a lot for me to experience in this game. Who knows when I will be able to actually make good on that, but it is nice to feel. That's something that I love has more to it that I might love. Anyway, at number 8, we have Among Us. I played 78.2 hours of it. The year it came out, I played this all the time. And as it came out during a time where so many people were socially isolating, it was an amazing thing to turn to with all sorts of people who either play games a lot or don't play games a lot. I played it with my gamer friends, I played it with my normie friends, and it was a good time. I don't think I'll ever play Among Us again. It's weird. I do love social deduction games in theory. I think I've moved past them. At least ones that are so hit and roll like this and that lead to so much arguing. I'm more on like the coup train where you just call someone out for lying and then you find out right away if you're right or wrong, opposed to the long-term thing where people are actually starting to get a little mad at each other. That energy, I no longer have it. But Among Us was great for that time for those exact reasons. It was just fun to kind of get riled up and not trust your friends for a little bit and lie really well to your friends and learn that about yourself. Learn that you're too good at lying or that you're bad at lying. I don't know. At number 7 is Stardew Valley at 82.9 hours. I've only really done one solid playthrough of the game. I have gone back a few times, started a few new farms, also just gone back for getting footage purposes. But again, the bulk of this definitely was when the game first came out. I remember it was in February and there was a 2 or 3 week period where I would go to work, come home from work and boot up my second job in Stardew Valley and spend like 4 or 5 hours on the farm before going to bed. And it was amazing. I love that time. You know, I grew up loving Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon 64 is one of those nostalgic games that will stick with me forever. It is just burnt into my DNA. And Stardew Valley just took everything that was good about Harvest Moon 64 and good about every other Harvest Moon or life sim game or farm sim game and just did it better. It did it so incredibly well and was so satisfying, and the writing was fun and the vibes were fun, and there's just so much to the game to enjoy. And what's amazing is the last time I played it was when it was close to 1.0 and now it's at 1.6, I believe. The game is twice the size it used to be. There's just so much more there sure. So hopefully one day I do go back to discover it. Maybe we pump this thing up to 150. Maybe we can get another 70 hours out of it. I would love that. And it feels like one of those games that would be worth it. It's obviously become one of the most successful indie games of all time for a reason. There is just so much there to enjoy. It is just one of those games that's nice to relax with. There are a few edges to it, I think, that maybe make it more engaging than some cozy games can be, and that's great. So yeah, that's the next one. Now, technically at number 6 is Far Cry 5 at 93 hours, but this is not right. I'm saying it because if you go to my profile, you will see it. But I have not played 93 hours of Far Cry 5. I have played like 50 maybe? I've played a decent amount. I've played through the game twice. My first playthrough probably was about 30 hours, and my second was a lot quicker, 15 or 20. This comes from, I believe, when you open the game, you have to open the Ubisoft client, and sometimes it counts you as being in the game when that client is open. And my guess is I just didn't close it one time, or maybe I opened it and then didn't actually go into the game and then left it on for a good while, at least a day or maybe 2 days. Probably 2 days. I've not played 93 hours of Far Cry 5, but if you go on, you will see it. So I figured I should make a small note of it. But the actual number 6 spot goes to Tabletop Simulator, which is at 98 hours. This one also probably has a lot of idling hours, to be fair, but I was still most likely interacting with it at the very least, even if I wasn't necessarily playing an actual game within it. I mentioned before how I really like those social deduction and hidden role games, and this is definitely where the bulk of my hours with Tabletop Simulator came from. I played a good amount of Resistance and Avalon and Secret Hitler in there, and yeah, a lot of good memories of yelling at friends again. Back in the day when I played it, it was really quite easy to get free mods of different games that people programmed, and I think that has cracked down a bit as companies have seen how popular Tabletop Simulator is and have either made their own that you have to pay for or just tried to actively stop people from putting free versions of their game out there. I imagine it's changed a fair bit and maybe isn't as versatile as it once was. But yeah, I played a handful of board games through there. What is cool about it is you get to move pieces around, you can interfere with other people's stuff, which is a fun novelty when you first try out the game. There's the whole flipping the table thing. It creates this sort of a tactile sense, this in-person sense. In ways, it's like the closest you can feel to an in-person game. So many board games now do have digital versions. Those versions are certainly gonna be better experiences, especially ones that put a lot of effort into it, that will have animations, but they don't always feel as much like you're playing a board game, where Tabletop Simulator, it definitely did. It certainly was janky in a handful of ways, but still a good bit of fun to feel like an authentic experience. And also, as I said before, at the time when everything was free, it was kind of a jack of all trades, because you could easily and cheaply play a bunch of different games, where if you want to play Mysterium and Dominion and whatever else, if you have a bunch of games you want to play, you're gonna have to pay individually for each of those digital options, and then you're paying a ton of money for it, where Tabletop Simulator kind of had a workaround, at least back in the day when it was more of the Wild West. Good times. I don't think I'll ever play it again though. We'll see. I don't know. I haven't really looked into if there are better alternatives to it, but I did play a lot of it. In the number 5 spot with 102.4 hours is Dark Souls Remastered. I love Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls 1 largely on PS3, so most of my hours came from that instead of the Steam version. But when Remastered came out, I've just gone back to it a lot. I don't know, I probably in total have over 200 hours in Dark Souls between different consoles, but we're just talking about Steam here, so that doesn't matter. Those hours don't matter. What does matter is I think I've done probably 4 or 5 playthroughs of Dark Souls Remastered on different kinds of builds, sometimes to get footage, sometimes just because the game is fun. I remember when it first came out, a lot of people complained about Dark Souls Remastered. I think a lot of it had to do with PvP reasons, which is not really the reason I play Dark Souls, so that hasn't bothered me much. I think it's a solid remaster. It definitely works better for me than Dark Souls ever did on PC, so that's nice too. And yeah, I mean, it's Dark Souls. It's one of the greatest, most important games ever made, and I still feel like I'm learning new things every time I go back and play it. I think a lot of these hours also come from just getting footage. I've gone back and just kind of gotten some scenic shots of various places in Dark Souls for videos, so definitely some of the time comes from that as well. I have a really big idea for a video on the Dark Souls series, which will probably force me to play the game another 1 to 2 times. So that's exciting because I would love to play the game and I think it's always fun to go back to it. I expect this game will climb higher. I expect this game will eventually definitely surpass the one that's ahead of it and probably the one that's ahead of that as well. But we'll see. I love Dark Souls. I love coming back to it every year or so as it's kind of become a comfort game because I understand it better than I used to, but there's still a lot of things I don't understand about it, which is also fun too. In the number 4 spot with 102.8 hours is PUBG. This is wild to me. It's surprising that I played 100 hours of PUBG, but also when that game came out and the whole battle royale genre was not nearly as popular as it is now, there was just something about it that was so incredible. And frankly, the game still does well, even though I feel like it doesn't get talked about very much, especially because Fortnite kind of is the battle royale that gets talked about all the time. It still has a high player count. It's still a popular game. And yeah, I mean, I'm never going to play it again, but man, for those first few months, there was something about just moving around the map that was engrossing. I remember my first game of PUBG, I didn't see anyone the entire time. I didn't even see someone when I died because I got shot from someone who was out of my vision. But I found that whole first run to be so entertaining. And it was just me being scared the whole time of people who might be out there, of hearing gunshots and ducking down and hiding, of also trying to outrun the circle that was closing in on me bit by bit. It was just so tense and made me look at movement in games in a different way, because movement in this game is not really that interesting. Driving a car is kind of fun, but running is just running. It's not what the genre has turned into, where there are cool movement options in stuff like Apex and stuff like Fortnite. Moving here is slow. It's tedious, but there is something about the tension that comes from the threat of other players as well as the circle closing in on you that makes basic movement feel good. I never was good at the game. I did get a couple chicken dinners, mostly in groups, but I did get 1 or 2 on my own. It was special for the time, at least in my life. With that said, it also was annoying as hell at times, as so much of it was waiting around in menus and waiting around in loading areas and trying to group up with your friends and then dying almost immediately. You kind of needed a good run in order for the game to feel good in the slightest, and not every run was. But when you did get that good run where you got pretty far into the game, there was something about it that was just super memorable. Even if you didn't win, even if you didn't get to the final 10 or whatever, it was a good time. At number 3 with 117.6 hours is Hades. I don't really like roguelikes or roguelites that much, but I was obsessed with Hades when I was playing it. The progression just felt incredible because it pulled it off not just with the character growth, but also with the growth of the story and how things played out based on conversations you would have while in a run and then conversations you'd have out of it. It just did this amazing thing where everything you did felt important in one way or another, and everything felt like it led to something else. Every run you would get progress in some way that felt cool and unique to your playthrough, even though it wasn't really. And when a game can pull that off, it just feels really nice. Of all the games I'm listing, there are only 2 that I got all the achievements for, and Hades is one of those. Normally I would expect to stop playing a game like this after getting my first clear, but I could not put it down. Not only did I get the actual ending, but I also got the secret ending that involves doing a lot of runs. And yeah, I loved it all. I had an incredible time with it, and I'm really excited for Hades 2. I don't know if it'll grip me in the same way. I have so much faith in Supergiant Games. All 4 of the games that they put out are bangers in my opinion, and really they've only gotten better over time. Yes, Pyre is better than Transistor and Bastion. Is that controversial? I assume that's controversial, but I don't care. Hades is probably the best of all of them though, and I don't know that I'll ever play it again, because the thing about Hades is at this point it's been so long, I feel like what I would want from Hades is not just to do a run every now and then, but to have the feeling of progression again. So I'd need to start a new game, and yeah, I don't know if I want to. I don't think it'll get all that many more hours, but when Hades 2 comes out, maybe combined, it will be the top. And in second place with 179 hours is The Witcher 3. I've done 2 playthroughs of The Witcher 3. My first one clocked in at about 50 hours, and my second was the rest of the time, so 130 hours. And for the second one, I did not only the base game, but also Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine. I kinda rushed it the first time. There was definitely a chunk in the middle where I slowed down a little bit, but early on I was rushing through the main quest, and then once I could kind of sense the end and I was feeling a little fatigued by the game, I also rushed it there. But the second time around, I really loved the game. I have a ton of issues with it. It is easily my most whinged about game out there, but the things it pulls off is just wildly impressive. No other game really does what The Witcher 3 does. And at this point, it's been almost 10 years and no game has really done what it's done. Its scope is just so impressive, but also I would say the scope is its biggest issue, so it is kind of a double-edged sword. It's weird because Blood and Wine is definitely my favorite part of the game, and what I love so much about it is a smaller contained world and area that they're able to hone in a way that they weren't really able to with the main areas of the game. But as it's a smaller scope, it does lack some of the awe-inspiring vastness of the base game, where you can truly just get lost in the swamps of Velen. Ultimately, The Witcher 3 is The Witcher 3. You've probably played it by now. You probably either love it or you hate it. I definitely could see myself playing through The Witcher 3 again. I don't know why though, but I could see it. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I couldn't. I kind of have done about everything I'd want to do in it. I don't know what another playthrough would really accomplish for me. But something in my gut says never say never. I imagine most additional playtime I have of this game will come from me filming stuff for videos, because it is a game I still like to talk about. I also have had fun with free cam stuff and just filming stuff within the game, so it's great for that. And as it's so vast and so diverse in what you can look at and see, it can make for great b-roll. I could see myself getting 200 hours in this just from messing around with free cam stuff and trying to get funny shots, but that probably will take a while. Who knows? Anyway, at number 1 with 286.2 hours is Elden Ring. This is the other game I've gotten all the achievements for, and yeah, I like it. I like Elden Ring. Again, it's probably my 3rd favorite FromSoft game, maybe 4th favorite. I think it goes Sekiro, Dark Souls, Bloodborne. I did a ranking of them at some point recently, but I don't remember what I said. And it changes. But yeah, that feels right. And Dark Souls is kind of my favorite of them, but Sekiro is the best. We're talking about Elden Ring though. Elden Ring is a pretty incredible game. It's so massive in its scope. There's just so much to it, and I have barely scratched the surface with many different aspects of the game. I have done a handful of playthroughs at this point, but for the most part, at least of the normal game, I've just done a big sword build using the Great Sword. For the Elden Ring Reforged play, which is probably 100 hours of this time, I did play as a mage, but also Reforged was such a weird version of the game that it's hard to fully feel like I played as a faith build. While it's the same game and same pieces, it operates so fundamentally different that it just feels like a whole different beast. I do want to play more Elden Ring. I want to do a playthrough as a build that's nothing like the one I did, especially with Shadow the Erdtree. There are so many incredible weapons with interesting movesets that change the game in so many cool ways that I have ignored fully. I've ignored it fully. I have played a very small version of what this game is and can be. And yeah, I'd be interested in looking at some other builds. I've watched YouTube videos of people talking about their favorite builds in Elden Ring. And I'm like, wow, you could really do so much in this game. There's so many cool things to be done and had. And I've barely done any of them. I still love the way I've played the game. I've always had a ton of fun doing it that way. But it is interesting to have almost 300 hours in a game. 286.2 hours. And only done one playstyle. There's a lot to be explored, and I'm sure the bosses just feel entirely different when using those different styles. So it'd kind of be like playing the game again for the first time, of learning how to fight the bosses in a new way. And that'd be cool. That'd be fun. I think pretty much everything FromSoft has ever made feels like it is worth playing more than once. of doing a New Game Plus run, of rolling a new character. And yeah, this is one that probably branches out with the most potential options, and is also just the one that's going to, by sheer scope, take the longest to beat once. You know, I've done more playthroughs of Dark Souls, I've done more playthroughs of Bloodborne, and even Dark Souls 2. A little factoid for anyone still watching this, I have a platinum trophy in Dark Souls 2. I like Dark Souls 2. It's good. But yeah, there is a vastness to Elden Ring that is super enticing, and I look forward to raising that hour count even higher. All things considered, I haven't really played any games all that long on Steam. I know some people have logged literally thousands of hours into titles. Some of these titles even. I know people have way more playtime in Elden Ring and The Witcher 3, and definitely the multiplayer ones like PUBG. I am the type who kind of looks for playing a lot of different games instead of getting sucked into one for too long. I'll put 100 hours into a game, but at a point I want to move on, see what else is out there, see what else I can learn from and whatnot. Anyway, tell me your top 3 most played games on Steam, and I will let you know whether or not you will get into heaven. Have a great day and or night, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.